Watch this video with our virtual reality glasses for smartphone. virtualvizor.com.
But we start with a lady, Sara. She has developed a Lucid Trip, a VR investigation game, and she's presenting you after my host presentation here, a short video too. The next one is then on her right side, let me see, sorry, Nicolas Chibac, a 360 video producer from Hamburg. His startup is called Spice VR, and focusing on 360 films and visual effects, and he has won several awards. And he's our representative for the film side in this round here. Very warm welcome. In the middle is Smudo. I don't think I have to say much to him because if I would mention each and every part of his career, this session would be not enough. He's here because he's representing, let's say, the musician side, the creative side, and I will later ask him what's this VR thing has, how this has influenced his work and things like that. Then is Benji Rogers, Bitcoin and VR pioneer, currently Chief Strategy Officer at Pledge Music, and as a member of, as I have written correctly, Board of Directors of the Future Music Coalition. Benji certainly can contribute very valuable aspects and insights in the VR future. Thank you that you are here. Then Daniel Federauer, our industry representative from Sony Music, also a very high-profile career in the digital technologies, and therefore also the Director of Innovation and Digital Technologies at Sony Music right now. Is that correct? Was that correct? Okay, great. Yeah, thanks that you are here, and you represent the supply side and will give us some insight of what's going on from the business side. And maybe this is it. Sara, your partner?
Should I present it?
Yes.
No?
Please.
Okay, cool.
No? Too soon? Stick to the script and that's Logan. No.
Sara, können wir bitte die Trailer jetzt nochmal haben, die du ganz am Anfang gespielt hast? Ja, danke sehr.
This was Sasha from Vizor.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi. Wonderful.
Hello.
So we're live, connected to you via Skype. You're in LA. It's early morning in where you are. 4 o'clock or so.
It's fine right now.
Fine. Okay.
We're ready to go.
Yeah. So you just woke up, or you're not in bed yet?
No, I've been up for a while.
Okay,
So,
great.
I just flew in for this. I could have been on Skype. I just got a plane.
Okay, so this is the script. You have presented something to us. For us, you have something for us. You have something for us. A demo that will be shown now.
Okay, so are you guys gonna show the trailer over there?
Yeah.
It's showing the trailer now. That one?
It's
Okay.
charging.
One more time. So, okay.
Cool. Yeah, so my name's Logan. I'm a creator of Soundstage. Until very recently, I was just a one-man show. Now I'm starting to finally get independent contractors to help out. But development started in March, and the goal initially was to create a VR analog. If you guys remember, like those giant room scale synthesizers in the 1970s and 1980s by Moog. That was the initial goal, but it slowly evolved into a VR music studio inspired by, if you guys are familiar with Maxim's Key or Pure Data or those different ways to sort of build your own virtual music studio, bringing that into 3 dimensions and using all the affordances that virtual reality has to offer. And development started in March. It's available now in Steam Early Access, and I'm currently getting it out there and then getting feedback from both musicians and non-musicians. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this was initially inspired in March by that ability of patching together your own sounds, like taking oscillators and manipulating them and realizing that if you want to use a synthesizer, you're before VR, I guess you currently now can do it with Soundstage. You can use a mouse and keyboard and say to reason, but you're still limited to just that mouse on that 2D surface in a very small monitor. Or you might use say like a Moog synthesizer on an iPad, but then you have that very ham-fisted touch, right? It's not a very accurate or responsive interface, and again, it's a very small display. And it seemed you had an opportunity with virtual reality to bring that virtual studio back into a surrounding 360 experience that uses your whole body, allows you to physically interact with your instruments in a virtual mode. And so that's been the general impetus for starting Soundstage, and it's slowly evolved into essentially GarageBand for VR. And so, there's still quite a few features that need to be built to get it to something that feels like a digital audio workstation, because there's a lot of expectations around building, around what a studio must offer. So for now, I call it a music sandbox, but that's the end goal for Soundstage. So right now, it's just a way to explore different musical ideas using a variety of instruments that you can patch together. But I think the long-term goal is making this a viable way to make professional music.
Yeah, thank you. And it's when I say I have understood only half of what you said, it's not because of I haven't understood your English, but I was actually a bit overwhelmed by what you said. I don't know what the script is, Sasha. You have to help me now. Shall we go on with Zara's performance now, or shall we talk about this first? Yeah. Okay, Logan, can you please explain again to me, maybe also to this audience here, what do you think how will VR change music landscapes in the next years or next months maybe? We are talking here in this area of obviously in months.
So I think there's sort of 2 different ways to look at both VR and ultimate AR. So I know there's like the 2 different schools of thought, but I definitely believe that as we progress, everybody I think has the same end goal, right? And the end goal here is to have pixels and atoms be interchangeable, right? Everybody wants the ability to make their reality as real or virtual as possible on a sliding scale, and whether that's accomplished through a VR headset or an AR headset is debatable. But with that in mind, I think there's 2 different sides of this from just pure interaction and creative standpoint. And we're going to put business aside for a second. So I think the two sides of this coin is going to always be interaction affordances and display affordances, right? And so, for example, with VR, your display affordance is right now low resolution. In the best case, lower resolution 360-degree virtual world. And your input affordance in a best case scenario like the Vive or the Oculus Touch, but at room scale, it has what old school VR folks called a boxing glove interface, which means you actually don't really have fingers. You just have 2 pointers with some buttons. And certainly musicians in the room will realize how much they use their fingers, even for dials, right? So if you look at both of those, you have to kind of look at the evolution of those and when it is appropriate for which step of music production or music creativity. And I think you're always going to be a little bit limited, currently not by the resolution, but by the input mechanism. And I think the thing that a lot of musicians are going to be looking for is the finger level fidelity of input. And I think a lot of people right now, if you guys are familiar with, say, Leap Motion, people will say, well, we already have hand-foot, or even HoloLens has the this, right, and the this. So there's some very primitive ways to interact using your hands without a boxing glove controller. But I think there's the other side of this is haptics or physical feedback, which again is very key to musician, right? Like imagine if any of you guys play a keyboard, imagine how useful that keyboard would be if you couldn't feel anything with your fingers, right? Most piano players don't look at the keyboard, but they're still dependent on that haptic feedback. And so I think that's the other side of the coin, and maybe the less explored part of VR input currently, at least in the mainstream. And so I guess moving forward, where I see this going is, yes, ultimately, this will be a very viable way to produce music for a certain subset. I think until you have that finger level fidelity and haptic feedback, you're going to be limited to a subset of music, specifically folks who really just want to put on a very compelling performance show rather than what is going to be the best way to perform a piece of music. Does that answer the question a little bit?
Yeah,
Makes
sure.
a lot of sense, yeah, definitely.
And I would like to again open the round. Maybe you can directly.
Yeah, so recently I was, oh, he's gone. Well, recently I was working a lot with the Wave VR, so the music DJ tool for virtual reality, which uses like Vive input, and it's super limited at the moment. Also due to you cannot use your fingers, all that stuff, and you're going like a huge step further. I mean, you have music instruments there. You're creating music like from scratch, also new music, and using different instruments where you definitely need more input than only the Vive controllers. Or it would be super nice to have if you have more differentiated input than the Vive controllers. So I can totally see that point, and but I mean it's super fascinating. So for me it was actually a super easy start to very intuitively and easy do DJing, like with the whole body, and also when you're not used to all that hardware that you actually gotta use for DJing, you get everything like in VR, you get all the tools, and you can use them without a huge barrier.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, so I can't, so you guys know, I can't see, so let me know if I'm ever cutting someone off or someone's expecting me to respond.
Just go ahead.
Sure. I think to your point of it being intuitive, it might be important, and this goes for music and it goes for, I think, any sort of professional consumer crossing application or creative application. And tilt brush is also kind of, I think, relevant here. And it's what does a professional want from a tool versus a beginner or someone who's just learning how to use the tool, because they're not the same, right? People who use mine professionally think tilt brush is really neat, but by no means is tilt brush a replacement for Autodesk Maya. And I would say that the same goes for the Wave and Soundstage versus say an Ableton or Logic Pro, right? They're not, and I don't know what the Wave's ultimate goal is when it comes to music authoring. Soundstage definitely wants to get there eventually. But for now, I think their greatest strength is in onboarding new users, right? So a person who's not familiar with Ableton or any of the other digital audio workstations, if they understand the basics of signals, can get very far in Soundstage and understand it intuitively. But when it comes to actually finishing a song and mastering it, to do that in Soundstage would take a whole lot longer than it would in a traditional program. And when it comes to a Skrillex or Deadmau5, it would take them a whole lot longer in the Wave to accomplish, or if they could even do it at all, accomplish that level of mixing in that program currently. But again, in both cases, it's a great way for users to have a volumetric, hands-on experience with material and understand it in a way that they may not be able to in a traditional 2D interface.
Okay, look, you don't see us, but
langsam aufgewacht.
yeah, we have a professional user here in our round, Smudo, and I would like to ask him now, how does VR and the whole surrounding has influenced your life, or will it influence your life in the next future?
Well, Logan already said it. There's two ways to look at it. You have the music authoring side, and I think it doesn't change too much here, but then we're talking about music interface, the way you can use and step up to complicated professional music producing software. You have the mouse and the keyboard now, and you have all kinds of devices now. Virtual reality will change a lot of these things in the near future and in the far future even more. It will be a natural thing to use virtual reality as an interface to cope with software. But music authoring, I think, hasn't changed and it won't change at all. You need to have an idea and you have to get it and you have to put it into music. And music producing has always been changed through, it's dependent on the technological evolution. You had an acoustic guitar, so people were doing all kinds of things with acoustic guitars. And you have electric guitar, you have synthesizers. Then you had the massive impact of sequencing music. And then now you have a lot of, now producing in software is much more cheaper than it was 20 years ago. So this is all a process of democratization of producing, die große Demokratisierung der Produktionsmittel. It means that everybody will be able to do music. It has nothing to do with quality. It's just you can do music. You can put, even if you want to have some music for your little clip on YouTube, you don't even have to hire a musician. You can use a funky virtual reality interface and a good software, do some presets and have some nice piece of music. So that's the producing side. And then there's also the authoring side, which is something completely different. And I think we all agree on that. And I think we all also agree that virtual reality is a serious step into the future of interfacing technology and humans.
Okay.
And my last thing is, it won't change the way music will be performed. There's, like Logan said, there's a keyboard player, there's a guitar player, there's performance on stage, there's dance that produces it. If you're a DJ in a virtual interface working with the music, there's some dance you have to add. Maybe future DJs will have to dance and not just dance to be successful. I don't know. But still, there will be a show, a concert for musicians to perform, and there's of course all kinds of different medias. We've been focusing on music production now, but I'm talking about live music now, and this won't change in the future. It hasn't changed much in the past. Just the way you can bring music to the audience will change all the time. It can be on film, it can be on an MP4. It will be it was on 3D TV, and now it's on ultra high definition TV, and it will be a virtual reality presentation, but this doesn't affect the show itself. Well, not really.
Let me ask you a question. When it comes to VR, you have a different setup in terms of what you're recording and what you're performing. So, do you think you could adapt your live performance in terms of that the audience in VR or 360 could really make use of the technology? Because if you're placing the camera like that, it's not really 360, you know.
I know we need to have a lot of fantasy right now. We need to get an idea of how virtual reality and networking and being connected will affect the presentation and maybe the performance of music. And I'm sure it will somehow. Of course, there will be artists that will work with the new media and give us craft experiences that we can all consume or maybe in a way interact with each other. I'm sure there are, because then, you could see this in the past also, the way 3D effects were put on stage, maybe, or the way well, I can think of. I've seen virtual realities experiences and on Steam already. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of experimentation. What can be entertaining and funny and even connected to music as an experience. I'm sure this will. I'm a big fan of the idea how virtual reality will massively change the entertainment production.
So just one thing there, like in the Wave VR, for example, it's also like that when at the moment it's a bit complicated with the server, But when you're doing a DJ set, you are there and people can join in with Gear VR and subpacks, so they can actually be part of the concert even if they're not in the same space. So like they can be in LA and we're here and we can all be in the same virtual room. And for example, also Noise VR, that startup from Hamburg, is doing that musical experience. They're also here, yeah. And they do kind of a similar thing. So they're recording artists, they have a live concert, and people can join in there, can be together in a room, watch that concert. So like this, bringing music to your consumers, even if they cannot be like at that point in time, at that place. Like for example at a concert, or they don't get cards anymore, so they can be in the virtual room and virtual environment. Yeah.
Sure. So I came at VR because I basically used VR as a stick to scare a bunch of music industry people into a room to talk about blockchain, which is a whole other circuitous route. But the other side of my life is in the direct-to-fan world. And watching musicians just throw all their revenue and data at YouTube and Spotify and the digital service providers and basically giving all their power over to them. One of the things I think is fascinating about the VR as an interface for this is the average user on the platform I started spends $55 per transaction. And the second that they leave our world, they send them to a place where they pay a third party $9.99 a month to listen to a flat song in sub-center quality. What I love about VR is you have the ability to, while you're in the studio, invite people into and upsell them into extraordinary experiences, to your point, wherever they are and as they're happening. And it will be absolutely fluid and natural to someone my daughter's age who's 4.5 years old. She puts the headset on, she doesn't know a world where that didn't exist. It's just, that's life. When you say to her, hey, listen on MP3, she's like, I don't understand, why would I do that? It doesn't make any sense. So the ability for artists to choose levels of participation and to own and control those experiences and not be subject to just large platforms is immense. And with the interface that you've built and others that I've seen, I've played with virtual doors before, what's incredible is you can invite the fan into an experience that they're willing to pay for above and beyond the standard musical experience, and therefore inject a whole bunch more revenue into the music industry in a fair and kind of balanced way.
I think there's different approaches you can make use of VR in the music industry. For example, you could broaden the audience. For example, the Coachella Fest in I don't know where it was. They had like 100,000 visitors, but they had 2 million views on their live streams. That's not VR, but you could imagine to broaden the audience by just offering a product where people can stand right on stage in 360 VR, 3D, right next to the artist. It's a different experience, and I think everyone knows if you're going to a concert, you might stand in the back and do not see very well and so on. So I don't think it would disrupt the live entertainment, but it could be an add-on. But Smudo, back to you. 4 or 5 years ago, we were having that 360 degrees stage. I think probably you would have to adapt live entertainment in a way that it could be used as VR or be viewable in VR and being interesting.
Yeah, I think there's still ways to find how music performance can be put in a nice, new, innovative way to consume it on a virtual reality style. A 360-degree stage is not a new thing. The Beatles had the first one, I think, in the 40s, the 50s, in the stadium show. Had a great stage, but not a good PA. But still, it's just another form. But there's a stage, there's people on it, people perform, and there's a very, very strong need, and I think that's an interesting point where we all agree here. There's a very, very strong need for a person to experience somebody else in person doing what he does. Maybe because he's a charismatic person. The way what he says is, if he has political ideas or if it's an artistic statement, an art statement, or if it's a song. If you're a fan of a band, you may be a fan of their values, of what they say, of what. So there are people, individuals who want to. Das sagt schon schwer auf Deutsch, auf Englisch. Es wird immer Leute geben, die andere Leute bewundern wollen, die Opinion-Leader brauchen, Leute brauchen, zu denen sie aufsehen, die Ideen teilen. Und als Verteiler von Ideen ist natürlich Virtual Reality eine super Plattform, ein tolles, interessantes Ding. Das ist scheißegal, wenn du verstehst. Und das da rumstammeln, kapierst du alle Ecken, ist ja nicht mal ganz dicht. Und das ist bestimmt spannend. Und es wird immer dieses Bedürfnis geben. Es wird immer das Bedürfnis geben, dass man eben persönlich sehen und treffen und erleben möchte. Und mit Virtual Reality ist es noch nicht so weit, aber es ist möglich, das etwas weiter zu machen. Trotzdem wird die persönliche Begegnung mit dem Künstler immer noch die wichtige sein, aber es ist ein Schritt näher dran. Und wenn ich jetzt schon mal so am Labern bin, möchte ich mal setzen, woran ich das auch ablese zum Beispiel, während man in den 80ern, 90ern, wenn man als Musikfan gerne seinem Künstler nah sein wollte, dann musste man sich ein Musikmagazin kaufen. Da gab es Bands, auch wir haben das auch gemacht, eigene Fanmagazine gemacht. Weil es dieses Bedürfnis gibt, dass es diesen Markt gibt. Und das brauchst du halt nicht mehr. Du hast deinen Twitter-Account, du hast dein Facebook, du bist also direkt persönlich. Und das nächste wird sein, dass du irgendwann deine Virtual Reality Facebook-Plattform hast, where you can just not type message to each other, but you can experience each other. And maybe have groups and discussions. So that's something that maybe happen in, let's say, 10, 20 years, I don't know.
Yeah, collaboration is the key word.
Sorry for that, but I couldn't get it in English.
It was very fast, even for us Germans, to follow him. He's the microphone professor. We have to go back to English. Sorry, because we have English.
Anytime. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they
would all be easier for all of us to speak in German, but we have English.
It's my fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. Not your own.
Sorry.
Also the audience.
Logan. Oh, and Logan.
But maybe we should, give the word to Nicolas as a film producer. I mean, I have many questions, so many questions. But now, first of all, you can give us an insight of your VR and 360 and mixed reality. This is something that is new for me, something else than virtual reality. But maybe you can say some words to that.
So yeah, my background is mainly the 360 film. So that's not really VR, I would say. It's kind of an immersive media. It's a new way of showing concerts or any kind of film as well. We use, of course, as well the VR headsets to enjoy it, but it's limited. I mean, this is a 360 film camera. We just see it here in front. It's an end consumer product, so it's already at this stage that everybody can do 360 film. And I'm pretty sure the next smartphone will do it. I'm actually wondering why they cannot do it yet, because you just have to put two lenses on both sides and have the 360 video. And the nice thing with 360 is really, before you have 16 by 9, and now you have really the whole space. You can really look around and you're not directed by the director. So, he can still direct in his way, but it's obviously completely new possibilities, but it's also limited. I mean, in the classical film you have like close-up, you have cuts and all these things, which are not really working that well in 360 film. So it's a completely new way of filming and showing it and watching it. But I think it's even more, it's closer to the reality than the classic film we know. So film history is like, it's an art form which developed the last 120 years. And it was so many specific things and languages which we learned, well, because we grew up with it, like now your daughter is growing up with a VR headset. So, but the 360 film is much closer to the reality, how we experience reality, because it's one position, it's all white, it's not zoomed in or something, it's like more you can decide what you look at. But it's still, the directors are really often afraid of using the 360 film because they say they lose the control from the audience. I mean, but it's not that complicated. Now the camera is like, I'm watching this way. Why I don't watch this way? There's nothing happening right now. So you always just have to lead the attention of the watcher, and then it's pretty easy to direct in 360, even if there are other challenges. And I think it's a first step now into VR, because we have volumetric film is coming up, the 8i Microsoft working on it. It's like that you have an actor really in 3D, but with film texture on top of it, if you want to say it like this. It's like if you go to Saturn and you can, maybe somebody of you went here already to this big shopping mall where you can buy a 3D print of yourself. So you get a 3D photo of you, and then they make a 3D model out of it. But with volumetric film, it's like that you get yourself in motion. So if I'm, or maybe Sara later is dancing, and the 360 or the volumetric film cameras will capture her, they will capture from all sides in motion. And this is really a big news. I mean, this is a little bit future, but it's working already. And then you have like a space like this, or any concert hall. You will capture a 3D scan, a photorealistic 3D scan, for example, with photogrammetry, what we also use, and you get a real one-to-one copy of the reality of every kind of stage around the world. And then you have the volumetric performer on stage live. I mean, it's not live yet, but it will be there. And then I'm pretty sure the virtual ticket, you mentioned already before, the virtual ticket will be more important than the real ticket you can sell here, because this is limited. You have here, I don't know, 200 seats or something like this. In the VR world, it's limited, unlimited. So it's really, like that will be a game changer, but still, you need the live thing happening. And I think it will be still key.
Still will have more value on live thing then.
Yeah, but it will enhance again the value of the live performance.
Yeah, the value chains is one of the words. Question to the auto industry representative. What do you think? How will the interaction or integration of the, let's say, whole supply chains up to the consumer be influenced by that?
To be honest, I don't see a revenue stream in the near future, because you don't have the mass market right there. But once the PlayStation VR comes out and everyone is connecting to their PlayStations, you have the audience where you can really sell those life experiences and so on. Just like you would rent a football game at Sky today. So that would be one way. If when technology evolves, there is different use cases you could adapt to and add to. But for the time being, we've done a lot of recordings of our artists in 360 and so on. Last year, Facebook and YouTube introduced 360 players on their platforms, and that was the first time the audience was able to really consume 360 recordings in the mass market. And they got to know that product. And I think that will be the mass production of VR headsets, and that will open up the market and to revenue streams as well.
The reason that I'm probably on this panel for writing the VR piece was that the biggest challenge that most VR companies are going to have moving forward is if they want to use existing works, they're going to have to hit up the great gatekeeping walls of the major and independent labels and publishers and on, because these are use cases that have not yet been designed for. What kind of, is it an on-demand license or is it not? So you get into this really interesting gray area where you're talking about a virtual room of this size, there's a licensing structure to play and perform music in here. Is that the same case if it's global, cross-border, with people who may not have paid to get in? How do you transfer royalties back and forth? And the other thing I'll say is, if anyone's ever been in VR and all of a sudden the audio stops or drops out, you're not in VR anymore. It's not real. So VR both requires content and has a really hard problem with licensing it. So the reason I think there's revenue for the traditional music industry is I hope and pray that the music industry embraces and licenses the living hell out of music so that they can get it out there and scaled. If they build walls, it will slow it down both on the manufacturing and consumer side and on. And I'll end my point with this. I went into the most extraordinary VR experience I've ever been in my entire life. I stood on another planet. I was on Mars in the VR experience in Oculus, full immersion, and I'm looking down at my feet and I've got boots on and I'm having this amazing experience. I come out of the experience and I said to the guy, this is unbelievable. Why didn't you use the song from the movie? Well, in the time it took us to get licensing rights to the film, the actors, to render the Martian surface, all that stuff, we were waiting for a letter to come back from one of the publishers. This cannot happen. And there are VR companies whose Series A rounds, the early investment rounds, are 3 times the size of music startups, who are investing in machines that will make royalty-free music because it's easier than waiting for letters and faxes and carrier pigeons to authorize the use of music. So there's you know, if VR, AR, and MR hit the $200 billion industry that they're proposed in the next 4 years, and already more money is being invested into it than is being invested in music, we have to be ready as a music industry to make our goods available in such a way that they can be used at scale, because I think scale is coming. And 360 is the gateway in, but you know, there's blockchain technology, there's all kinds of stuff that emerging. The industry has to understand that to hold this back and make it hard is only going to slow down potentially the largest format shift we're ever going to see in our lifetimes as we go from, you know, Blu-ray, vinyl, on and on. If we lose the format again, it won't come back because they've got more money and can basically make crap music that machines would make in the absence of humans, and what a miserable experience that would be for everybody.
Yeah, I'm not so pessimistic but, at this point, because I think there's still the need of one human being to experience another human being in a way. But still, that's a very, very interesting point. It's going to be a big, big, big market, and the whole shift is on the administrative side is absolutely important.
From a music industry point of view, I also think that's going to be a huge market, and I really doubt that people will go up against. I think the barrier currently is to convince or let the artist experience VR, and there is no real good way where the artist can see it and experience and have really the concepts in VR. Because there is no mass market yet. So perhaps...
So what I'm talking about is if you build a VR game, like any VR company here, who's had to try and license the complete catalog of Warner, Sony, Universal, and Merlin? Who's ever had to try that? It's $2.5 million, it's taking 2 years, right? I mean, it's a mess. And that should be easy. It should be tested, and then once you hit certain thresholds, it ramps up. So it's not, I'm not saying it's an artist problem. I think artists would love this, actually. I think being able to sit there and say, hey, I'll make my stems available is one thing. It's just not the artist's decision. It's all of the layers underneath it. And again, there's two VR, I invested in a couple of companies. There's 2 VR companies, and one of them is like, 2 of them are just ready. I mean, they are so good, technologically speaking. And they're like, but no one will invest in us. Why? Because we need to get licenses. And so it just stops, because any venture capitalist is going to sit there and say, all right, you need $5 million. And if I give you $5 million, $3 million is going to go to the labels, plus 20% equity. So I'm basically giving money to the labels. And then you've got to then build your product on top of it. This is not, I'm not bashing labels here, this is labels industry, but this is just a common problem with any application layer that you're trying to build into a new and emerging technology. So, you know, the labels can't collude with each other to figure out a common licensing structure, which makes it even harder because monopolies-wise they can't do it. So we're at this point whereby we have to solve that middle layer in order to be able to let the technology scale to where it can, to where any VR company out here can go and sit there and say, we want to license X, Y, and Z from you for this amount of time, these territories, can we have a go at it? Because to prove product market fit, to prove scale, you need the big songs, you need the big catalogs in order to be able to do it. Otherwise, it's like, you know, it becomes niche, 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 or robots making music for you.
Robots. But I also got this set prepared in the Wave, like, or maybe 2 tracks or something to demonstrate like the functions of this thing for you, like how it works, or just to try it out. So should I do this?
We still have 10 minutes left. I don't know how long will the
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Wenn Sie bitte das Signal.
Let's go.
Bitte? Das ist schon richtig.
And with the dude from Big also, I would say, thank God that I have no drug problems. This is really, I mean, how do you feel now after this? I mean, you have done this certainly
I do
many
this
times
a
before.
lot. Yeah, I do this
Okay.
a lot. I mean, that's a really cool program. So you can interact like very intuitively. I think you saw it. You didn't really get my like the thing between the two tracks, because this is still quite complicated because they don't got a pre-listening function. But else, I mean, it's super nice. Like for example, yesterday we went through the whole set we will play tomorrow, which is about 2 hours. So after the 2 hours, we were a bit like, wow, this is kind of exhausting, because it's more exhausting like to look at this than to look around in the real world. But actually, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So you're totally in there. You have the visual feedback. You have the like all the WeChat things are connected to the beats. Yeah.
So I mean, it becomes very clear that the future is depends of course on the development of the technology. But as Sasha said when I got the first briefing here for this session, he said in 10 years VR cannot be different from real reality anymore, and then it's the next step. And then we'll talk. I don't know if it's 10 years, but maybe you say 5. Okay, very optimistic maybe, but well, we still have a couple of minutes left, so maybe it's the chance for everyone to have give a final statement, which I would give you the chance. Now 5 years is very optimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe you first.
I will just talk about why Sara was inside. Smudo just mentioned that would be nice to have this in mixed reality. So mixed reality, then you have these VR things, or like you use a HoloLens, and all the black parts or all the background, for example, would be the real world. So like a DJ is standing in front of his audience, but he has all his instruments virtual projected in the space around him, so he can really perform without even having a DJ put in front of him, just in VR, everything what he wants. And then, but the audience is there and real. I mean, HoloLens is really tiny at the moment of field of view. But
well, I think that's a good performance idea. This is like the Stone Age version of the future DJ, what we just saw maybe. Because if you have the DJ, with the mixed reality lens, just be an interface for him to use his DJ technology. He won't need any mixers anymore, just his headphones and what he sees, and then the audience can see him and maybe his partner DJ. It's the Stars Get Touched, Future DJ 2500, with a nice choreography show. Why not? And maybe it's easy to license them.
I hope, yeah.
That would be something to look for in the future. But I would say also something like this. The Stars Get Touched Future DJ team may be up in 7 years.
And the instruments will be holographic projected, so that the audience can see it as well.
By the way, audience, normally in sessions like this, the audience is involved somehow. Maybe we forgot this. Are there any questions to the speakers here?
I think time is going to be a bit difficult.
Time is difficult. Oh, okay, sorry, we are running out of time. Yeah. You want to say something again?
Yeah, just quickly. Have you finished?
I think Benji won.
I had to back up 5 years, right?
Yeah, back to 5, and then we the final.
I think that one of the barriers to the licensing and the scalability of that is going to be lifted in the next 6 to 9 months, which will make it much easier for the investment community to come in and invest in the music side of what VR can do. I think that the machines that make the license-free music will get better as well. Again, I'm not for or against it, I'm just saying that that's what it is, so that's what it is. And apart from space mining, I think it's Bitcoin or blockchain and virtual reality are the two most invested in things, like kind of in history at this point. So I think that with a generation, this kind of generation of coders and developers going full tilt at this, and the fact that the technology is racing on its far, I think in 5 years we're going to see some basic merged and augmented and virtual reality becoming extraordinarily mainstream. And I'll just say this on the like a kind of when my grandparents were very ill, to be able to put them into a VR world and take them with you somewhere amazing, to take them to a show, to maybe recreate a show that they'd seen when they were younger, is something that we should think about too. There's a generation getting much older, living much longer, who are not going to have mobility, and you put them into an extraordinary VR experience, you'll change lives together, and bringing them, families together from all over. It'll all have a backdrop of music. That's what we've got to fix.
Daniel, you want to say some final word, or
I'm pretty eager to see the next couple of months and years, because headset's going to be going to hit the mass market, and that's when it's going to start off. It's going to start off with gaming first, and then the other entertainment verticals will drop in, and it's going to be something new. I'm excited.
Okay, thank you from my side. I think you want to say something?
Yeah, just very briefly, thank you very much to everybody who's participated.